Great Girlfriends, we invite you to What Women Want 2017, June 15th through 17th in New York City, powered by Prudential. The 2017 What Women Want Conference is all about uniting women from around the world in one weekend with power talks, workshops, dance breaks, beauty and wellness tips, and authentic connectivity that will inspire you to return home ignited to create change. This year, our theme of building bridges and breaking barriers is about women creating connections first with themselves and then with others to lead an outstanding life. At What Women Want, over 200 great girlfriends will go from me to we as our programming will guide girlfriends on living a life full of purpose and power. Connect with like-minded women who stand as bridges towards higher living and meaningful relationships. Gain clarity on what they truly want to manifest in their lives and their friendships, and celebrate the power and passion that women display when we leave all of our cares behind and savor the experience. So last but not least, log on now to whatwomenwantconference.com. Again, that's whatwomenwantconference.com and grab your tickets while they last. We'll see you there. Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. We're your hosts. I'm Sybil Amuti.
And I'm Brandis Daniel.
And we have a guest girlfriend on today.
Yay!
Miss Mary Fran Von Tempo.
Yes, that last name, right?
That's a great
awesome
name. I know. I love it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I can't even tell you. I'm so excited.
We're so glad to have you. We really, really are.
Thank you.
How's your 2017 going?
You know, we hit the ground running, and that's a good thing. So the holiday season was a really nice combination between running around like a crazy person and sitting on my bum and relaxing. So it was a really nice mix of the two. So off and running in 2017.
I love it. I love it.
Very nice.
So, Brandis, how's 2017 going for you?
2017 is so exciting. I'm telling you, I am so excited. I am challenging myself in ways that I have never challenged myself before. And I'm not pregnant. And Sky is, a grown lady. So I feel so good.
I love it.
Last year I was dealing with an infant this time, and then I was pregnant the year before that. So now I finally feel like I'm approaching this year with full clarity.
Oh wow, that's good.
So I'm excited. I'm pushing and I'm challenging myself, and it feels really good.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
How about you?
My 2017 it's been wild. It's been good. It's been interesting, and it's been fun. Getting a lot of good work done, and I really am excited because, like we talked about last year, kicking off some fun things this year. So as far as work and doing more traveling, having more time for my family is the bigger plan. So I'm excited about it.
Yay.
Yeah,
I love
it's
it.
going fast. I'm kind of sad about how fast it's going, but
I know.
What can we do with this time thing?
Yes, I already know, girl. It zooms by.
Right. So, girlfriends, hopefully by now you've gotten your tickets to the What Women Want Conference 2017. There are still tickets available at whatwomenwantconference.com. It is going to be fantastic. June 15th through 17th in NYC. I'm
so
excited.
Much fun.
That's so exciting.
Oh my, so much fun. Mary Fran, the conference that we had in 2016 was our first. And the one thing that Sybil and I committed ourselves to was that every great girlfriend that walked through the door, would be hugged, would be loved on, and would have a great time. And every single person felt that way.
Yep.
And so I think because of that, our ticket sales are going really, really well for this year.
Yes.
And then the women actually, you go to conferences and you kind of meet people and you kind of got cards and you're like, who the heck was this card? What did you look like? People actually make real connections and real friendships at our conference. So I'm excited.
No, I know. There's actually business going on. I'm seeing transactions. I'm seeing people building brands together.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think you girls, and I will call you girls forever because who doesn't want to be called a girl no matter how. I'm going to call you girls if you'll forgive me. But clearly you build your business and your outreach on relationships, and people respond to that.
Yes.
You do business with people that you feel comfortable with. So that conference is a wonderful, wonderful way for people to enter into that world and make those relationships that move them forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're excited. I don't know if I'm more excited about meeting the girlfriends myself, or am I more excited about them meeting each other? I'm a little bit selfish. I kind of want to meet them myself.
That's why you started this whole thing. You realize the value of that. So,
Right.
To that. Good for you.
I love it.
Right. So we are so excited because we met Mary Fran, a few months ago, and got a chance to speak with her over the Christmas holidays.
Yes.
It was, because I was in Memphis. And we had that conversation, and she had us completely engulfed in her story, and just her story of love and of family and of pivoting, as Sybil loves to say. She's so inspiring. I know our great girlfriends are going to be on fire after this conversation.
I think so.
Well, I certainly hope so. And I don't know if it was all as much intentional as it was wherever the whirlwind throws you, and you got to start somewhere. So that, I think, is an important lesson to learn, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Intentional. It's sometimes just, what can I do to keep from going down the drain,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. I think it's a great time for us to kind of talk about that thing, because so many of us are in that space where, the resolutions are kind of done. It's like whatever discipline has left us to continue doing is what we're doing. But also life is happening. And so, as life happens, it's up to us. We have to be responsible for how we get engaged and how we respond and how we, make lemonade and whatever all these other cliches are about how we turn situations into really great stories that we can live with. And that's what really grabbed us about you, Mary Fran. I don't want to give away the story.
Right.
We want you to share with our girlfriends, just if you could start us from that really one of those marking moments in your life, that kind of gave you a sense of direct or redirection.
Well, I think it was probably about 7 years ago. I was kind of in this perfect storm of life events. I mean, just stuff was going on all over the place. I started my writing career as a newspaper columnist, was writing for a lot of smaller papers, and then the internet came along and just exploded, changed the publishing industry dramatically. So all of my jobs were disappearing. The economy was in terrible shape, so our family business was threatened by that. I was turning 50, which now I say, God, could I get that number back again? Because that's a distant memory, but at the time it was very traumatic.
Yeah.
But the worst of it was that my son was in the throes of heroin addiction. Mm-hmm. So I was in this incredibly, incredibly dark place and really feeling like I was in a whirlpool, circling the drain. And again, knowing that I had to do something, not even knowing what, but I had to do something or I was going to go down. And that's kind of where all of these changes started. And I think it's really important for people to understand, especially at this time of year when we're doing all these resolutions and we have these plans and everything, that, as you said, Sybil, life happens. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you can't be married to the outcomes of things. You kind of have to lose control a little bit and let the universe take you where it's going to take you, which does not mean inaction. Mm-hmm. It just means do something and see where you go from there. And that's what I ended up having to do, something.
Wow.
So, okay, as a woman, mom, and person who had control, what were some of the feelings that let you know it was time for you to relinquish rights or even make some adjustments to what you thought were outcomes?
Well, first of all, I don't think this is the thing about we as women. We make our plans because we have to plan. Otherwise, we'll just dive under the bed and live there with the dog. I mean, you have to have some illusion. You have to have some illusion that you have control over something, or we couldn't get out of bed in the morning. But the truth of the matter is, and try not to panic, we don't have control over anything.
Yeah.
We really don't. We can initiate whatever we want our plan to be for the day. We can initiate whatever we want our plan to be for the year. But again, we'll go back to the life happens kind of thing. And stuff gets thrown into that. And I feel like, my higher power, my God, it kind of uses those things to redirect me.
Yeah.
Whether I want to be redirected or not.
Right.
So I think at that point, again, we were so out of control. So many big things in our lives were beyond our saying, well, if I do this, that will make it better. That I just thought I have to do something. And in not knowing what, but just talking to a girlfriend one day, gotta give the girlfriends credit.
Yes.
I was lamenting, I think, the aging thing. I had a lot to complain about back then, but I think we happened to be talking about the aging thing. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm so not ready for granny panties. And at that, like the writer in me perked up and I thought, oh, I could do something with that. So I taught myself how to blog. My best friend Google and I learned that together. And I started the Not Ready for Granny Panties blog. And that was a step in helping me to find a path.
Yeah.
And kind of give me a little bit of that firm footing that I was missing.
I love that firm footing. That's what it is. That's what we think control is firm footing.
Yeah. I mean, and it doesn't last all the time, but you have to have some kind of a foundation. And then from there, you can go to other places. And that was the starting point for me to take steps in other areas as well.
Wow. And so you're getting ready to turn 50. You said your family business. What's your family business?
We are staffing company. We're executive recruiters. And back at that time, the economy was tanking. Nobody was hiring. We also have a temp firm. So in that world, either people are hiring perm people or they're hiring temp people, depending on what the economy is doing. Well, back then they weren't hiring anybody. So we were really, really in dire straits. But once again, you look at the silver lining, and what we ended up doing was streamlining our business dramatically, going virtual with a lot of things, and now we're in incredibly good shape. We're doing better than ever. But it wasn't a change we would have made without being forced to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for our moms that are listening, you raise a child and you hope that you can protect them from everything that the world has to offer that's negative. And then things happen. And and you as a mom have to reconcile in your heart that all will be well, and you have to make decisions to fight for your child. How did you balance all of that?
Well, it's an incredibly, incredibly hard lesson for we as moms to learn that we can't control our children's lives. We can't control the outcomes of what their journey is. And that is so hard. I mean, you've birthed this baby and you would do anything for this child. You'd throw yourself under a bus in a moment.
Yeah.
But when you have a child who grows up, well, first of all, I'll start this with a funny story, which sort of conveys where David was going all along. There are signs. You can kind of see what's coming in the future. You might not want to look at it directly head on because it can be scary. But when he was 6 years old, I put him on the big school bus to go to school, little knowing that he was going to get a whole other education there. I was in his room cleaning one day, and I found this little slip of paper that had words written on it that he never learned at home. He had a list of, it was like the list of George Carlin, if you remember that comedian, his 7 dirty words that you can't say on television. Yeah. It was a slightly watered down version of that, written in a 6-year-old's hand and spelled phonetically.
Oh, wow.
He came home. I said to him, oh my gosh, David, what is this? Why did you write this? And he said to me, that's my mad list. When I get mad, I want to say those words. And you said I couldn't, so I thought I'd just write them down.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Smart
exactly. It was kind of at that moment that I went, oh, I am really in for it with this kid. I am in for it. So as he got older, clearly he was, despite my best efforts, I mean, the youth minister at our church. I was a substitute teacher at our school. I was like a fly on flypaper with this kid. Like he didn't get away with anything, so I thought. Until I found cigarettes in his room when he was like 12, and then realized that he had been drinking even at that young age. We don't even drink at home. So where he was getting it, I don't know, but he found it. So he's going to find a way. So it started back then realizing that I couldn't protect this kid from himself because he was going to make decisions. And as he got to be older and older, and one of, I think, his biggest issues was that he was never a confident person, despite being incredibly smart, incredibly charming, personality all over the place, but just never felt like he could, I guess, compete. I don't know if this was all in his head with maybe his father, maybe me. You know, you try to be successful and your kid thinks they're never going to be able to compete with that. So it was really when he was in college that I realized, I knew he had a drinking issue, but he started with pills. And one day he got in a fight at school. And we were called by the security people, and we had to take him to the hospital, and they told us that he had been taking pills. And it's a much longer story, and I could go into all of it. But what it ends up coming down to is that at some point you maybe have to realize that you're not the best person to help them. And that's really hard for us as moms because we want to be that person.
Yeah.
But eventually it got to the point where I knew I needed to get him into treatment and turn it over to someone else. And that was hard, but liberating at the same time.
Yeah.
I was out of my element.
Wow.
See, we both have small children, so we're on this side listening like, wow.
I don't want to scare you girls, but...
No,
it's great to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, as a parent right now and on our side, everything has firm footing.
Yes. So. You control it. You know when they're sleeping, you know when they're awake, you know what they're eating, you know where they're at, their friends and all that. And it changes. The minute you put them on that school bus, it starts to change.
What did it teach you?
I think what it taught me was that I had to trust that whatever I had taught him all the way along was at some point going to kick in. And it did.
Awesome.
It did. So, I think you have to do your best all the way through to emulate those things that you want your child to know.
Yeah. And
trust and pray constantly that at some point it will resonate with them. And eventually it does. But when they're trying to find themselves, a lot of times they will try different paths that are 180 in contrast to who you are and what you want for them, because they think you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that happens. And again, you have to be there and be supportive. But even that has to have boundaries.
Yeah.
As I said to David during his second stint in rehab, I have 2 daughters who are younger than him and my husband. And I said to him, I will follow you to the edge of where you're going. But I will not go over, and I will not let you take your father and your sisters with you. So if you choose to live this way, which you can, because everyone chooses how they want to live.
Right.
If you choose to live this way, that's up to you, but you will not do it with us in your life. And that was really hard as a mom. But he had to know your choices are not going to take the rest of us to a place we don't want to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's got to be incredibly difficult, loving a child through all of that. And I can only imagine just the energy that it takes to withstand something like that. And then still being in a place of personal turmoil with business and personally trying to figure out what am I going to do, because everything that I thought was secure and safe in the newspaper industry is now changing. And how do I even focus on these other things when I have my child that's going through this? I mean, honestly, like Sybil said, like as a mom of a baby, really, it's even hard to even fathom, like, what does that look like and how do you live that out? I guess, and I'm sure we have great girlfriends who are listening who may be going through something similar and maybe in a place where they're actually losing themselves, Mary Fran. How do you not lose yourself in this and not only not lose yourself, really almost reinvent yourself in some ways?
Well, I think you have to, first of all, do rely on your friends. Do rely on your girlfriends. Do rely on your support network. And that, believe it or not, is not always the people closest to you. It may not be your immediate family because they may not be able to deal with this either. They may not be able to, their allegiances are very torn. I found that a lot of the people in my family, some siblings and whatnot, they wanted to protect me, and as a consequence, kind of wanted me to toss my son out. Well, I couldn't do that. I couldn't. There was a point when I did get to that. I said you either go to rehab. When he was in the hospital, the first time he went in the hospital and he overdosed, it was Mother's Day, believe it or not, of 2011. And I spent Mother's Day night on a 2-cushioned love seat in the hospital, hoping that he overdosed on medication that had acetaminophen in it, which can destroy your liver. And they had said to us, if we can't reverse this, he's going to need a liver transplant. This is like,
wow,
Mother's Day of 2011. And I'm thinking, well, you can't even think. You just, you put it on autopilot. Yeah. You really do. You go and do the next thing. My husband and I had a saying that, they say one day at a time. Well, we were down to 15 minutes at a time.
Wow.
And I think that you have to allow yourself that. You have to allow yourself to recognize that you're down to 15 minutes. And if that's all you can manage, that's all you manage.
Wow.
And you get through those 15 minutes. And, you don't have to share the intimate, dirty details of everything with everybody. But find those people that you can even just say to them, I'm having a really, really tough day. Can you help me by either XYZ, or can you just, come and sit with me for a while? Or can we go to lunch? I mean, honestly, those kinds of things that are normal, and I'm using air quotes now that people can't see, but I'm using air quotes, whatever normal means to you. When my husband and I had 15 minutes of normal, we were so grateful for that.
Wow.
So anytime you're bored right now, file that away, because that's going to be something. There's going to be some point you're going to want to go back to that.
No, that's so true. That is so true.
So during this time, this was the time when your son was in the throes of his addiction. Is this the time when you started the blog?
It was.
Okay.
It absolutely was. And, I think what you have to also do is that you have to realize that you have a place in this, and your place is not the guilty mom. What did I do wrong? How did my kid get here? You got to let go of that. If you're a good mom, I say it, and this sounds a little rough, but unless you're like a Coke addict yourself, you didn't do this. You didn't get your kid there, unless you're modeling that behavior. He didn't learn it from you.
Yeah.
So you have to allow yourself to kind of compartmentalize the guilt. It's there. It's impossible for it not to be. You're the mom. But you have to put it in a drawer. And you have to realize that, first of all, if you have other children, you have to be there for them too. Mm-hmm. And again, you have to not let them be taken down by all of this. And part of that is making sure that you are okay. And part of that is finding those 15 minutes of normal in a day for you, or finding those 15 minutes where you feel like you're feeding yourself somehow. And that, it can be in a business, it can be in a personal relationship, whatever. But you need to find that and work it into your day. And, we had times where my son, living with a drug addict is like living in an asylum with the inmates running the asylum.
He lived with you.
Oh, yeah.
During this time. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because a part of it was I was afraid that if he didn't, he would die.
Yeah.
He was out on the street and he would die. There does come a point, we were lucky that he went into treatment twice, and the second time, for whatever reason, decided this was the way he was going to change. But sometimes you have to, in order to survive and in order to protect the rest of the members of your family, sometimes you have to tell them they have to leave. It gets that bad.
Yeah.
I was not that unfortunate. And I am very fortunate because I could be telling a very different story.
Right.
In the midst of all that, there was a part in my brain saying, don't lose yourself to this. Don't let this become your story.
Mm.
This is his story, and you're a part of that, but it's not your story. Don't let it define you. And that kind of gave me the strength to go forward with creating the blog, which, is based in humor. I mean, gallows humor at times.
Right.
I have to tell you, this is funny because we had a recent conversation with a woman who was retiring from a mega career and saying, I'm 55, do I just go grab the yoga pants and, just cozy into this next stage like some of her friends were doing? Or do I, pony up and go for my next thing and whatever this next is, or the discovery of next? And the granny panty part cracks me up, especially because there's so much implicit, there's so many rights you relinquish once you put them on. It's like, okay, there goes sexy.
Did you just say rights you relinquish?
Yes, yeah.
It's like go in all different directions.
I'm just like, I'm no longer sexy. I'm no longer vibrant. I'm no longer this. Like, everything just goes away. You just give away all the rights to those titles,
But you know what? This is what I always tell women. It's not what's going on down there that I'm worried about.
Yeah.
It's the mental granny panties.
Yeah.
It's the mental ones that we put on as a mindset after we get to be a certain age or, whatever's going on in your life.
I think it's 30.
I think it is too. The minute you have
it's 30?
Oh, it starts there.
So many grannies and, granny panty wearing 30-somethings that are like so settled into this, and I'm just like, why are you so settled, so young? We're so young. Like, what are we doing?
That proves that it's a mindset. It's the mental granny panties, and any age can be stuck in them.
Yeah. So what does it mean to be mentally stuck in granny panties, according to Mary Fran?
I think it means exactly what you said. You define yourself in certain very limiting ways.
Uh-huh.
And you figure that because you're, this age, because you're at the end of a certain career, because you have a couple of kids and you're kind of tied to that lifestyle, you limit yourself and you think that certain things are beyond you or have passed you by. And what I say is it's open season. All the time, on everything.
Right.
You just have to choose not to be stuck in that mindset.
That's good. I think I need a thong mindset. Maybe
there you go.
Right now, I have like a hipster mindset, and I think I need a thong mindset.
God.
You know what the beauty of it is? You can change it off. Sometimes it's a thong day. Sometimes it's a hipster day. As long as it's not a full-blown 9 bolts of fabric granny panties day.
But it's so true because there's so many different attributes that come along with the mindset of each one. And granny panties says it all because I remember my mom, when she first, first of all, our first panties were all granny panties because there was like no bikini back then. Well, you know what? There wasn't in my house, put it like that. So everything was like white control briefs or briefs, like
I do.
Out of the pack. And I carried that mindset into college until I learned from one of my older sisters, like, no, there's different types. I'm like, really? And so I learned, and I feel like, truth be told, there's so many adjustments that happen in your psychology when you shift, physically, yes, when you shift that, but psychologically, who you become as you start taking on these personas. And it really does matter because age is this thing with women that's such a stressful sort of angst thing for us to consider, our age. I'm about to be this. Anticipation of this age and what it means, or letting go of that last age and what it meant. And by definition, I know biologically there are things that happen to us at age, and I think that there are some psychological things that happen, but I think emotionally, we torment ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Like 50? I'm like 50? 50 to me...
Watch where you're going with this, Sybil. I wait, just that.
No, but I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and she's like, well, she's not really my friend, honestly. I snatched her. She's one of my mom's friends, but she's like a neutral friend, right? So she's like in her 60s, and we were talking about how the older you get, the younger ages seem. So, she was saying like someone passed in their 70s, and she was like, he was so young. And I said, how old was he? And she's like, he was 72. And I was like...
My mom does the same thing all the time.
And unless you're dead, everybody else is so young.
Everyone's young.
My grandmother, when she was 90, oh my gosh, she was like 96, and we wanted to take her to like a senior center to do things during the day. Uh-huh. She said to us, I don't want to sit with those old people all day long. I said, you're 96. Everybody older than you is dead. Are you kidding me?
I love it. He's like, no, take me to Walmart. Take me to Walmart.
Oh, God. That is hilarious.
How do we unlock, Mary Fran? How do we mentally unlock? We don't, I don't want to be the granny panty girl. And I feel like I'm maybe 2 decisions away. If I don't go from hipster over to the tanga to the thong, then I'm going into control briefs.
Well, I started this whole thing giving women commandments to follow. And one of my absolute favorite ones is thou shalt scare thyself.
I love it.
One of the best ways to avoid granny panties is to scare yourself. I mean, we used to love being scared when we were kids. Remember haunted houses and roller coasters and all that? Being scared made us feel alive.
Yeah.
But as we get older, because we're the keepers of everything and we have to keep everybody safe, we avoid fear at all costs. But fear can be incredibly liberating. It makes us feel alive. It kicks that adrenaline back in.
Right.
I always tell women, if you don't know what to do, go sing karaoke, especially if you can't sing.
Right.
Yes.
It's the best thing to do.
There's nothing more terrifying than getting up in front of a room full of people and singing. And when you realize you're not going to die of embarrassment, you can have so much fun.
Right.
Yes.
You know what's interesting? I think we think thrill seekers have to be a certain type of person.
Yeah.
And we should all have, by definition, be thrill seekers. I'm looking for a thrill. Yeah.
And I think you can find thrills in the simplest of ways. And they can come from the most unexpected places. Like, even something, a couple of years ago, I had lunch with friends of mine in town. And when I got up that morning, I was like, we'll have lunch. It'll be fine. Well, we ended up having lunch at the Comcast building here in Philadelphia. And they have a restaurant. When we finally got upstairs, because even though it was the Comcast building, none of their computers were working and we couldn't get upstairs. But that's a whole different story. That for another conversation. Uh-huh. But when we finally got up there, this restaurant, when you're a kid and you learn geography in Philadelphia, you learn about the Schuylkill and the Delaware rivers and how they kind of go around the city. I could see them from the top floor of that restaurant. I could see the rivers cupping and kind of enfolding the city. And even that was a thrill.
Yeah.
So it was something that came out of an ordinary experience that was unexpected. And so they're there. You don't have to necessarily jump out of a plane.
Yeah.
Those experiences that give you a little thrill, like look up, look at the sky, watch the hawks flying around. Yeah. That's so cool. You just have to be open to that. Those little things. And then you could build up to jumping out of a plane. Who knows? But it's small. It can start small.
Yes, give us another one.
Okay, so here's one of the other commandments that I think that you really have to embrace as you get older. And even now, it's thou shalt ignore more. It's very easy to find reasons to be offended and annoyed. When I was bored, I would used to look for something that would aggravate me, and I could go off on a rant for a whole half hour and fill plenty of time just complaining about stuff. It's easy to find things that are going to offend you. Stop looking for reasons to be offended. Ignore them. And you know what? There's also this is a tough one, but this will help you to stay out of those mental granny panties. There is somebody in your life who pushes all of your buttons and knows just how to send you right over the edge. And it's probably somebody in your family, because they're the ones who are closest to you and know how to do that. You have to learn how to selectively ignore that person.
Yeah.
And create
so
space for yourself inside of your life and in your head. And the peace that you experience from that will be a wonderful thing.
Yes. You know, this is so funny because over Christmas, all of my sisters, there's 3 of us. I'm the youngest of 3 girls. So my sisters know. They just, all the buttons.
Yeah.
And I know their buttons, and I'm the youngest, so by nature I'm the instigator. So I know how to just poke and provoke and irritate just for the heck of it. So one of my sisters said something to me, and by nature I just wanted to, I just wanted to. I was like, this is what I do. When she does this, I do this.
Exactly.
And it hit me, and I was like, you know what? I don't have to respond to you. I don't have to respond to you.
Ignore more, baby. Learn how to, I always say, get ignorant, girls. There's something to be said for ignorance.
Yes. There sure is.
And I took that with me into different conversations and arenas. I'm like, you're looking for me to respond, and I don't have to respond to you. I don't have to. It's a choice. I never knew I had a choice.
That's it. You do have a choice. You absolutely have a choice. And you know what? It's hard to redefine those family relationships as we get older, but you can do it.
Yeah.
If you recognize them for what they are. Everybody regresses. You know, that's one of the reasons we all hate those big family things, because suddenly you're 6 years old again.
Yeah.
It happened to me. I used to be smart. I'm educated. I come here and I act like a 6-year-old.
Right. And I'm, quite frankly, and I'm still not at the adult table. Just saying. I'm there with my kids at the kid table.
Sometimes that's a better place to be.
That is so true, though. But that's very good. Yeah.
I love that. True. I love scaring yourself. That's so
yes.
good. Yeah.
You know, a couple of years ago, and this is a little bit of, well, for me it was risk-taking, and for anyone else it would not be. 2 things. First of all, I surfed. I got up on a surfboard. Now, I surfed in about 6 inches of water. Don't be too impressed, but
still.
But I got up on that surfboard. I was not in my bikini because I gave those up a couple years ago.
Uh-huh.
But I got up on a surfboard, and it was so cool. And just to be able to say that I did that, of course I was terrified, even though it was 6 inches of water.
Yeah.
But it was the best thing ever. And a couple of years before that, my husband and I took up kayaking, which, you know, we have a little place at the Jersey Shore, and he's pushing me out into the ocean, which kind of gave me pause, too. Like, he's behind me, pushing me out into the middle of the ocean. I'm thinking, Anyway, once he did eventually jump into the kayak, and I was terrified until I was thrilled.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, it happens. That transition happens. You're terrified and you're thrilled.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to be willing to be afraid to get the jump.
Yeah. When you jump, you have to free fall for a little bit.
That's exactly right.
Before you get to the beauty.
Take that leap of faith.
So how did you go from, so you have this blog and it's doing, I assume, really well. And how did you decide to then, I'm going to become an author?
Well, it's really funny. It was, as many of these things are, and this is why I kind of say you have to lose control. It sort of developed organically. It wasn't something that I planned, which is why I always say to women, start somewhere. Take some step, because you don't know what's going to happen next. You know, next could be this, and don't be attached to your plan.
Yeah.
Turn it over to the universe. Start your plan and turn it over to the universe and see what happens next. So in conversing with readers through the blog and everything, I kind of realized, as I said to you before we even started this talk, that I have no trouble talking, ever, and realized that there was more to say, and I had a book in me somewhere. And actually, it was my daughter who said, why don't you do something with commandments? So the first book just came out of conversations with women. And we're always putting rules on ourselves. So I thought, let's make it some fun rules. Mm-hmm. Let's make these rules that can serve us and aren't limiting us. And that's how the first book, which was the 11 Commandments for Avoiding Granny Panties, came about.
I love it.
And I love it.
I don't want to say it just happened, because obviously you have to do things. You know, you have to take action. But I think I was just open to seeing what happened next. And that happened.
Wow.
That's so good. I love it.
Wow.
I feel so inspired because I feel like you bring it all to the table. And I think sometimes we want to leave behind parts that are ugly and we want to pretend they didn't happen. But I love how you built a collective story of all of the pieces, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the different changes that life will bring. And you've decided that here is my sum total. Here's my sum total.
Yeah, and everybody has a train wreck.
Yeah.
Every single person has a train wreck.
Yeah.
And, you can choose to ignore that, but then you're not being authentic because let's face it, those are the experiences that shape us the most.
Yeah.
Yes.
Train wrecks are the things that, that's when you know how strong you are.
Yes.
I know. That's
when
so
you're
true.
trying to dig out of that.
I have a question for you, actually, because I thought about this. I hear in stories of addiction, so many marriages don't make it.
Yeah.
And you and your husband are still together, and sounds like you're having fun.
I don't think anybody else would take us on at this point. Might be by default, but yes, we are still together.
But you're still on adventures. I mean, you're kayaking and surfing together, and it sounds like there's still some connection there. For us married people, I'm 10.5 years in. Brandis is 3.5, right?
Yep. Almost 4.
Almost 4. How many years have you been married?
35.
35.
Wow.
How did you keep your marriage through the train wreck?
Well, I think you have to realize, first of all, it's important all throughout, especially when you're not having train wrecks, to make sure you nurture that connection. Because as you well know by now, not even 4 years in, 10 years in, everyday life is rough. It's rough. So you have to make sure, people joke, they have to have date night and all that. You do have to have date night. And if it's not date night, it's date 3 hours when the kids go to bed and you share a bowl of popcorn and you watch a movie together and you snuggle a little bit. You have to foster that connection. Yeah. Just because you've said I do doesn't mean that's the end of it.
Come on. Absolutely.
That's the beginning of it. That's the beginning of it. And if you want this person to help you dig out of the train wreck, you have to keep that connection strong. It has to be nurtured.
Yeah.
And for us, again, it doesn't have to be grand things. It could be, hey, honey, I'll be in the city today. How about we meet for lunch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a grand thing. If you can't muster, like I said, you can't muster a date night, put the kids to bed, share a glass of wine and a bowl of popcorn. It doesn't have to be grand. If you can do grand, do it.
Yeah.
Go to the Bahamas, get on the plane.
Right.
But if you can't, find those little ways to nurture and feed that connection and try to remember what the heck you said I do for in the first place.
That's what I've learned over time. I said, wow, so many people plan for the wedding, but not the marriage.
Yeah.
So the marriage then collapsed, and they're like, what happened? You never planned for the marriage. You just wanted this great wedding.
Yeah, they wanted a big party. Guess what? A big party's a heck of a lot cheaper to throw than a wedding and a marriage and a divorce.
Yeah.
So make up your mind what you want ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's that look. We went to this conference a few months ago. Mary Fran called. What was it? Michelle Hergrove.
Oh, restoration.
And there was a woman there who had been married. I think she'd been married maybe 20-something years, and she said, "You have to stay clocked into a marriage. The moment you clock out, it's done."
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. And even at this point in the game, my husband and I we'll just sit in the family room at night, and he'll be on his computer and I'll be reading the paper or whatever. But we're there and we converse. Talk to each other. We make sure that we are in the same room.
Yeah.
We make sure that we are, and again, it's easy enough to get locked into your computers and all that kind of stuff. We make sure that we have a conversation. Have a conversation every day.
Yeah.
That's a little bit deeper than, okay, start with how was your day? But give yourself a rule. I'm going to ask my spouse 3 questions that are going to lead to a conversation today. Yeah. And just make sure there's a connection. It's so, so important.
I love it. That's so true.
I love
Very
that.
true. So, random question before we close out. What physical type of panty do you wear? What's your favorite type?
Oh my gosh, you're asking me that question. You know what the funniest thing is? I know more about women's underwear than I ever thought. People come up to me all the time and show me, like they show me their pants. Weirdest thing. It is the weirdest thing, but I will tell you this. My favorite pair of undies is a pair of Wonder Woman underpants that I got at Target one time. They are literally Wonder Woman panties, and I tell women that that's what they should be wearing in their head all the time, but I wear them on my bum.
I love it. Okay, so give our girlfriends all of your website and your social, everything that we need to connect and where we can get all of your books.
I am on maryfranbontempo.com, and there are links there to everything, to the books, which are on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. The 2 books are the 11 Commandments for Avoiding Granny Panties and the Woman's Book of Dirty Words. You can find me, my author pages on Facebook, Mary Fran Bontempo. I'm on Twitter. Go to the maryfranbontempo.com, and the blog is notreadyforgrannypanties.com, and you can jump everywhere from there.
I just love your vibrancy. I was looking at your blog and I saw that you said you were going to do some brilliant post, but then you saw, you know what I'm going to say? But then you saw Uptown Funk.
I was Bruno Mars. How do you not put that on? I mean, really. Do people want to hear from me, or do they want to watch Bruno Mars do Uptown Funk? There was no choice. I had to post Uptown Funk again.
I love that. I love it.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel like, girlfriends, hopefully you grabbed all the wisdom that we grabbed. Brandis and I are kind of sitting on our sofas, like leaned into the screen.
We totally leaned in. I just feel like you have so much wisdom.
Yeah, and light.
We all have it. We just have to give ourselves credit for having it. You've all been through stuff. Use that as a resource for yourself. You got this, girls. Yeah. You got it. You got it already.
And can I say how much I love the last name Bontempo?
Me too.
Good times.
I would overpronounce that if that was my last name.
Yeah, it'd be Bontempo. Bontempo.
I would work it. Best thing ever, Bontempo. How do you go wrong with a last name like that?
It is definitely like the bow on the dress, you know, the icing on the cake. It's like your first name can be whatever, because wait for my last name. It's Bontempo.
Wait. Unless you're in Memphis.
It'd be Bontempo.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Oh, this is so great.
Mary Fran, we close out every episode by thanking our husbands. Kwaku, I love my husband of 10 and a half years, 11 years on April 29th. So I'm so in love with him. That's it.
Yes, and to my husband, Rich Daniel, who worked so hard and sacrifices so much for our family. I'm so grateful for him. And we're 3.5 years in, so we're babies.
That's okay. 3.5 years is 3.5 years, and I will thank my husband for 35 years, Dave, for sticking with me.
I love it. And then we thank our kids, Sam, who's 8, and Dylan, who's 5. I love my babies. Thank you so much, kids, for being patient with me and teaching me everything I know about motherhood.
And I'm debating whether I want to mention Sky. Sky is my 15-month-old, Mary, and she won't say mama, but she says everything else. Cracker, yogurt, all done, bye-bye.
She's pushing your buttons already.
She is!
She really is. All done? She's on 2 words and won't say
yes! No mama. She laughs when I ask her to say it.
You know who she's going to go to every single time she needs something? Mama, whether she says it or not.
Brandis, thou shalt not be offended. Okay?
I am well offended. That little girl, I'm like, I pushed you out. I did that.
Say thanks, Dada.
That's great.
Oh my gosh. Do you want to thank your kids, Mary?
My son, David, has been my blessing, my cross, and I adore him so well. My daughters are, and Megan, they're loves of love.
Oh, it's so awesome. And we thank you, girlfriends, for trusting us as your go-to source for everything life, love, and laughter. Make sure you listen every single Wednesday on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Republic, Podcast Feed, Blueberry, every other podcasting service.
And you can also check us out on our social on Instagram,
The Great Girlfriends,
Twitter,
_Great GFS,
Facebook,
The Great Girlfriends.
and please be sure to join our Facebook group. We're about 17,000 strong now. Our goal is to be at 27,000 by the end of this year.
Yes, and that's The Great Girlfriends as well. Be sure to post your questions online, share with your friends, keep listening, and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil.
I'm Brandis.
And I'm Mary Fran.
And we're signing off.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Peace.